Okay, you know how like mid-June rolls around and everyone starts to get excited? You're like, yeah, summertime's coming. So you start to like unwind, you slow things down and you start to get into party mode and relaxation mode. Yes, that's going to happen. And also, when I look at the astrology of this upcoming period, the last 2 weeks of June, it's coming, but it's not happening just yet. There's a little bit of feeling that we got to do before we get to that place. And I will tell you how we're going to get through this and how we're going to get through it together. But first, welcome to Align, the Astrological Wellness Podcast. I'm your host, Paul Galoro. And in this episode, we're talking about the energy of June 17 to 30th, 2024. There is a lot of shifting happening during this period. We've got first Mercury, then Venus, then the Sun moving into Cancer. We celebrate the summer solstice, followed very closely by a beautiful full moon in Capricorn. The energy is inviting us to slow down and focus on self-care. I'll get more into that later, but first, we're going to talk a little bit. If you could do me a favor, wherever you are, wherever you're listening to this or watching this video, please like, subscribe, follow, do whatever it is that you need to do to stay connected to this podcast. Know that every comment you leave, every share, every like, helps this podcast grow. It also helps me to grow. Thank you in advance for doing all of that and also subscribing to my YouTube channel. And while you're at it, head over to paulgaloro.com, sign up for my newsletter, and you will have a line delivered straight to your inbox every 2 weeks. Just a few announcements. I am presenting once again at canfitpro, the Canadian Fitness Professionals Global Conference and Trade Show this August in Toronto. I'm super excited. Last year, if you remember, I was crowned Fitness Professional of the Year. This year, I get to pass the crown on to the next person. I'm also presenting sessions as well. My fellow mind body misfit, Claudia Miko, and I are going to presenting a session called Unlocking Potential, Mastering the 5 Methods of Subconscious Training. This is going to help you, whether you're whatever kind of fitness professional you are, whether it's group fitness or one-on-one. We're going to teach you some ways that you can better connect with your clients in order to help them move forward in their training and achieve their goals. That'll be on the Friday morning. And then on Saturday morning, I'm presenting a special session called Arise and Shine, a morning practice for a vibrant day. I'm going to talk about the importance of having a regular morning routine that focuses on self-care, journaling, movement, getting our mind and our bodies ready for the day ahead. It is based on my program Arise. So I'll be sharing a lot of information there. And it's not just me. There are tons of other fitness professionals and fitness leaders, fitness and wellness leaders in the industry that are going to be presenting lectures and workshops. There are going to be fun workouts. There's the giant trade show that's happening. So head over to canfitpro.com to check out those details and to register. That's in August. In September, I'm heading back to Italy to lead Bella Figura, my retreat in Italy. This is my first one since 2019. I'm so thrilled. And we are officially sold out. All 10 spots of this retreat have been filled. If you're not signed up for this one, you will get your chance next year. And stick around because I can't announce it yet, but I've got some exciting news for 2025. So kind of just like park October 2025 until I get more details for you. But something exciting is coming up and I will share that at a later date. Now, before we get to any of that stuff, next week, June 17 to 21st, it is open house preview week in Arise. So if you would like to check out my morning readiness program called Arise, you are welcome. I invite you all. You're welcome to do so on June 17 to 21. My morning program, Arise, is a morning readiness program. We meet Monday to Friday in real time at 7:15 Eastern time. And I take you through a practice that is designed to get you ready for your day, to start your day with a full cup and to start your day focused on love, putting yourself first so that you can go out and be of service to the people in your world and in your life. So it's a great program. This week, not this week now, but the week that I'm talking about, the preview week, June 17 to 21, we are celebrating the summer solstice, and the full moon, because the full moon will happen on the Friday. But we are celebrating all things light, and you are welcome. To register for the preview, there is a link in the comments or in the show's notes, wherever you're watching this. You will see a link to sign up for that. So just put your name and email address in there. I'll send you the details, and then we will see you on all days or just some of the days, but we will see you during that preview. Also, remember, I'm going to be talking about astrology and the astrology of this period, June 17th to 30th, 2024. If you're curious about how this energy will affect you specifically and you want an astrology consultation, I do have 5 spots left that I'm offering at 50% off. So if you're interested, if you want to know more about your natal chart, or you want to know how this chart is, or how your chart, or how this astrology is going to impact you, then book yourself a session. All of the information that you need on how to do that is in the show's notes. So definitely check that out, and I will see you there. Now let's talk, as I mentioned, June 17th to 30th, 2024, we begin this period. I'm just going to do a quick little recap of where everything is. The sun at this point is currently in Gemini. It will be moving into Cancer at the solstice on the 20th. Now, the moon is in the waxing phase, so it's still building, it's growing, building toward this full moon. Full moons are a time for gratitude and release. We'll talk about that. And then from there, the moon will move into the waning phase, where the energy starts to shrink and we're focused more on release before we get to the next new moon. And then we also have something interesting that's happening. Actually, this happens on the weekend. So June 15, 16, Mercury and Venus come together in the final degrees of Gemini before they both together step over the threshold of Cancer on June 17th. Now, this will actually happen in like the wee hours of the morning Eastern time. So we're going to go to sleep and Mercury and Venus are going to be in Gemini. We're going to wake up and Mercury and Venus will have already moved into Cancer. I'll talk a little bit more about that, but they're going to stay in that energy through this whole period that I'm talking about for this reading. Mercury is going to be in Cancer for 2.5 weeks, Venus for 3.5 weeks. Mars is in Taurus. And so all of this energy is asking us to slow down, to go inward, and it's going to be a period of introspection. So that's why I said at the top of the show, like, you might not want to hear this because you might want to get into party mode, but there's something that's going to be directing us to go inward. So I'll talk more about that. But before we get into it, actually, let's talk a little bit about the Cancer archetype. Now, Cancer is a water sign. And keep in mind, whatever I'm talking about now, regardless of what your astrological sign is, I'm just talking about the general energy of this period. And when the sun moves into Cancer, we're going to feel this a little bit more. Now, Cancer, as I said, is a water sign. So this is a very intuitive, sensitive, and emotionally connected sign. It's also a cardinal sign, which means it's got an initiating, a startup energy to it. Every sign is one of the 4 elements: fire, earth, air, or water. And then every sign is also one of the 3 modalities, either cardinal, fixed, or mutable. Cardinal is that initiating energy. It's quick to take action. It's get up and go. It likes to start things. Cancer takes action that is informed by emotional understanding. And it has a key phrase. The key phrase of Cancer is, I feel. So as certain planets move into Cancer, they're going to take on this key phrase of I feel. And I'll talk a little bit about that in a bit. But I just want to share a little bit more about the Cancer archetype. Now, I share these words with you from my dear friend and personal astrologer, Crystal Eves. From her upcoming book, she writes about Cancer. She says this: in the sign of Cancer, we move from the outward interactions of the sign of Gemini into a more pensive, reflective, restorative stance. In Cancer, we realize that the connections we made and the ideas we generated in Gemini require nurturing and sustenance to continue. So we retreat inward to assess our needs and to attend to that which is necessary to survive. In Cancer, we understand that in order to have branches that extend far into the world, we need to have an equally strong rooting system as support. and also as a counterbalance to the pressures and demands of the outer world. That system is beneath the surface, not necessarily visible to others. It is meant to keep us anchored and adequately supplied to ensure our future. So when we look at the Cancer archetype, and now listen, as I'm talking, and when I say Cancer archetype, if you're thinking of that person that is a Cancer, you're gonna not, it's not gonna make sense. When I'm talking about the Cancer archetype, keep in mind that all zodiac signs exist in all of us in a certain way. So we all have Cancer, we all have Gemini, we all have Leo, we all have all the signs within us. Just some of us respond to this energy a little bit more than others. Some of us might be a little bit more, we might be, it might be easier for us to access our Cancer qualities. It might be easier for some more so than it is for others. So just kind of keep this in mind. I'm talking about a general energy, not a specific person or a specific personality type or quality. Now, the sun is going to move into Cancer on June 20th. And so our conscious awareness will shift to this more introspective, emotional space. But before that happens, Mercury and Venus are going to move into Cancer. So Mercury representing our head, our mind, our thinking mechanism, our perceptions, and Venus is our heart. So they line up, they move into this space together, and it invites us to mentally to reflect on what we need, both mentally and emotionally, to take care of ourselves so that we can go out into the world and support those who need it. Like Crystal said in her book, about the system that we're looking at with Cancer, all that rooting system, it's beneath the surface. So we're the only ones that know about it, and we're the only ones that know of our own, and we're the only ones that could tend to it. And again, it's meant to keep us anchored so that we can be out there to support others. So as Mercury and Venus move into this, our mind is going to be focused on expressing our feelings, and our heart, Venus, is going to be focused on feeling our feelings. So remember, the key phrase for Cancer is I feel. So Mercury starts to do his thing with this I feel. So he starts to express and communicate from this emotional space, this feeling space. And then Venus, our relationships, how we give and receive love, that also starts to turn into the this feeling space. So we're going to start to feel our feelings a lot more. Now, this can create a lot of there's so much water going around. There's a lot of emotion in terms of like expressing and allowing ourselves to feel. It's really important that we take care of ourselves because, first of all, Cancer invented self-care, right? Cancer, as Crystal's words said, gets us to focus on all the inside stuff so that we can stay rooted in ourself to be available to the outside world. But with Mercury, with our mind and our heart in this feeling space, we might be feeling a little bit sensitive. We might be noticing that there's this desire, Venus, to express Mercury, our feelings, Cancer. Just be mindful of that. And we definitely want to lean into the ways that we can nurture both our mind and our heart. Right now, with all of that stuff that's happening in the Cancer mansion, so the Cancer area of the sky, we have Mars over there in Taurus. Taurus is an earth sign. Mars is actually getting his disposition from Venus right now because Venus rules Taurus. So it invites us to turn our attention to our body, how we care for it, how we adorn it, how we move our body, keeping in mind this idea of like that slow summer vibe to get this season started. The other thing that Mars in Taurus invites us to do, it invites us to savor the moment. So as much as we're going to be feeling through this period, Mars says just slow down and feel it, enjoy it, savor it. I always say, we're blessed as humans to be able to experience an entire spectrum of human emotion. So do your best to allow yourself to feel. And as I'm saying this out loud, I'm reminding myself of the ways that I like to numb my feelings, because who likes to feel things all the time? So this may be a time to just kind of um, do your best not to. Do your best to like actually feel the feels, because there's going to be some information there that will be revealed to us. And especially as we get toward the full moon. Now, before we get there, I want to talk about the solstice itself. So on June 20th at 4:50 p.m. Eastern Time, the North Pole will be at its maximum tilt toward the sun. And that creates the moment that we know as the summer solstice. Now, astrologically speaking, it doesn't have an influence on us. It's not like, Mars reflects the body, Mercury reflects the mind, Venus reflects the heart. It's not like that. We use in astrology the summer solstice kind of as a marker point. It invites us to reflect on the sun and all the light and the love that's in our lives, but it doesn't have a like energetic feel to it. So we won't really notice the summer solstice aside from the fact that it is the longest amount of daylight that we're going to experience here in the northern hemisphere. And here's actually a fun fact. I don't think a lot of people know this. We talk about the summer solstice as the longest day of the year, the longest amount of daylight in the year, which is true. Like to the second, to the millisecond, yes, it is the longest time that we're going to have. But the sun almost does this like hover in the sky at that highest point for like a good 3 or 4 days before we start to see an actual decrease in the amount of daylight that we experience every day. So it's kind of, the way I see it is kind of like a roller coaster. As you go up the hill, there's that anticipation, you're getting higher and higher. That's the sun. And then when you get to the top of the hill, it kind of does this like linger for a second, this hover where it's like nothing's happening. And then it goes down, it's like, shoo, and it's like fast again. That's kind of what the solstice is. And the days kind of like leading up and the days immediately after, it's kind of like that hover before we start to actually see the decrease in daylight. We will experience about 15 and a half hours of daylight for close to 5 days. We won't see, in terms of minutes, like we won't see a huge change in minutes. The sun will rise and set at the same time for those a couple of days. So that's really what the focus is for the solstice. But something else that's interesting is happening at the same time, and that's a full moon. So imagine this for a second. We've got the sun at the highest point of the sky right over us. And another fun fact, if you go out at high noon on the day of the solstice and those couple of days after, your shadow will be the shortest it will ever be this year. And the opposite is true for the winter solstice. If you go out at high noon on the winter solstice, your shadow will be the longest it would ever be, just because of the placement of the sun. But we've got all of this sunlight pouring down on us on the day of the solstice and those couple of days after. That's why we celebrate light and all that great stuff at the solstice. But we also have, the very next day, we're going to have the moon exactly opposite the sun, creating a full moon. And so we're going to have the longest amount of daylight, and then even our night will be bathed in the light of the sun, which is basically, well, it'll be bathed in the light of the moon, but the light of the moon is basically the reflection of the light of the sun. So this is pretty interesting to me. So there's a lot of light just like flooding our bodies, and also a lot of emotional energy that is going to be flooding us. So that's why our self-care is so important during this time. I cannot stress that enough, especially because it is Cancer season. But we all know that full moons tend to be a highly energetically charged time and emotionally charged time. So we might find ourselves a little bit more emotional than usual during this period. So take it slow and take care of yourself. This particular full moon is in Capricorn, and the Capricorn archetype is all about discipline, practicality. It's about achieving success. So some of us might feel a little bit more energized to be more productive and be more responsible. there might be this strong urge to like get things done and check things off of your to-do list. So this is from the 21st till about the 23rd. So maybe that whole weekend we might be feeling this a little bit. Keep in mind, Capricorn is an earth sign. Mars is also in an earth sign. So we are reminded to go slow. So we're going to have the earth of Capricorn, the earth of Taurus kind of being the container of all of the feelings that we're feeling with Mercury, Venus, and the sun in water sign. The other thing too to be careful of, because the extreme of Capricorn is becoming a workaholic or neglecting our emotional needs. So do your best to tend to those emotions, because also, like I said, it just is an emotionally charged time to begin with. So we want to really take care of ourselves. So that's the energy. I didn't go into too much about like any of the other aspects that are happening. I wanted to speak mostly to the energies that we're in, and how this is going to continue for this 2-week period of the 17th to the 30th. So how can you work with this energy? I've already said it, and I'm going to say it again just in case it didn't hit home yet. Really up your self-care routine. Come up with something that you can do daily that helps you to stop, sit, breathe, to center yourself, to ground yourself, to re-anchor yourself so that you can establish those roots and not get swept up in the emotion of everything that may be happening around this time. Simple things like make sure you have a solid morning and evening routine. Make sure that your self-care practices include journaling, Mercury, includes feeling, Venus, that allows yourself to feel your things without numbing, without resisting, without trying to change, just kind of like let it be. Because as you allow that feeling as you allow yourself to feel, you're also going to discover what you need. The medicine that you need to heal is in the feeling of itself. So having that practice, regular practice, is a great way to do it. Hey, and you know what? Shameless plug, Arise is definitely a way that you can do it, right? Arise, we are regular. We meet every morning at the same time. Now it's available both in real time and on demand. So once you sign up, you get the recordings for everything. So if you don't do it with us in real time, you can also always do it at a time that works best for you. But in Arise, we are doing breath work. We are doing journaling. We're doing movement. We're doing things that put ourself and our self-care first before we go out into the rest of our day to make our day happen. So up your self-care routine. I cannot stress that enough. And I'm not just talking about like take bubble baths and get a massage, not that kind of self-care. I'm talking about the mental, emotional self-care that we need to continue functioning in this world. Right? We need to take care of our emotions. We need to feel those emotions. We need to process them. We need to talk about them. We need to let them go. We need to do all of that stuff as part of our self-care. So we're not holding on to this energy. So self-care, number one. Number two, breath work. Again, this is a thing that we do in Arise. But your best form of breath work that I would recommend for this period is alternate nostril breathing. I recommended it for Gemini. I'm also going to recommend it for Cancer as well. It allows us to slow down, to be present. You're breathing so much slower as you take breath into just one nostril. And then you only have so much space to exhale that breath through the opposite nostril. So this is a great way to calm your nervous system. It's a great way to calm your mind. It's also a wonderful way to self-soothe. So if you are feeling swept up by some of the emotions, coming into your breath work is a great way to ground and settle you. And then one of my favorite things to do is to reflect. I'm always going to recommend that you have some sort of reflection, whether you're somebody that writes it out or you just like to sit there and kind of, let it marinate in your mind for a little bit. The question I'm going to invite you to really focus on during this period from the 17th to the 30th, and I'm also going to recommend it for the first part of July as well, since we'll still be in Cancer, but something to reflect on. What are your favorite ways to nurture yourself? How do you nurture yourself? Is it the bubble bath thing? Are you somebody who has to move their body and loves to run? Maybe that's nurturing to you in some way. Are there particular foods that you like to eat to nurture yourself? Is there music that you'd like to listen to nurture your soul? Are there books that you like to read? Like, what ways do you nurture yourself? Number one, reflect on them. Number two, do them. Actually do them. I'm talking about making this a self-care practice. Actually do the things to nurture yourself, because that is going to help you maximize this energy and make the most out of it. Now, that is it for this period. Remember, put yourself first, take care of yourself. Now, I'm talking about all of this like deep emotional stuff. You know, we are getting into summer. There will be that moment of celebration. Soon, Mercury is going to move into Leo. Leo is joy. Leo is celebration. Then Venus is going to move into Leo. Actually, we're going to talk about when Venus moves into Leo, because she was retrograde in Leo last year. So she's coming back to this. And so I feel like there's going to be a completion happening there. And then the sun's going to move into Leo. So we're going to have a celebration there. So the celebration is coming. But first, we must feel. Remember, when we feel the things, we feel them so that they can be released. So that is it for today. Remember, the celebrations are coming. We will get through this Cancer season together. We will move into a more fun, loving, and joyful Leo season. But again, I get ahead of myself. Let's get into Cancer season first, feel our way through, and then we can get into the celebration. Remember, if you want to join me for the Arise preview, June 17 to 21, then check the show's notes, click the link, fill out the form, and I will be in touch with you with all of the information that you need to join us for Arise. You can also book a consultation with me, 5 more people to get that 50% discount. So again, all that information's in the show's notes. And please do me a favor, do yourself a favor, sign up for my newsletter. Head over to paulgaloro.com. And I will send this newsletter to you directly to your inbox every other Wednesday. So thank you so much for joining me. Happy summer solstice, happy full moon in Capricorn, happy Cancer season, happy feeling all the feels. And remember, I love you, and I'll see you again next time. Bye for now.